The champs, the Cavs, they've lost 5 of 7. LeBron is sounding off. He said after last night's loss to the Pelicans, we're not better than last year from a personnel standpoint. We have a top-heavy team. We top-heavy as blank. We need a bleeping playmaker. So LeBron throwing himself into that. He's obviously sending a message in some direction, one way or the other. We've got Ryan Russillo and Brad Daugherty here to talk about this. One would think LeBron has David Griffin's ear, the GM, right? Sure. Why do you feel like he needed to sound off in public instead of working back channels here with?
Well, he's extremely frustrated, obviously.
So it's an emotional thing.
I agree. I think it's all emotional at this point. They've really struggled the last 10 games and have played really just abysmal basketball. Missing J.R. Smith, to me, when that happened, that's a huge hole in this puzzle. The Cavs are built differently than a lot of teams. It all evolves, obviously, around LeBron, but there has to be specific pieces to play with him so they have success. They're not like the Warriors that can plug in Durant and plug in Thompson and plug in Curry and get all this volume of shot and volume of opportunity. So when J.R. Smith got hurt, I said to myself, this is going to be a huge issue. Yeah. This is going to be a problem. This is going to expose a lot of weaknesses, but I do believe there's a little bit of panic that's not warranted right now.
What did you think about LeBron's post-game yesterday?
I thought they gave up 70 points to the Pelicans without Anthony Davis, and he was really annoyed by it. But they weren't into it. I mean, I watched that game last night. You're going, you're going to give up 70 to these guys? It's 4 small forwards and Drew Holiday. Yeah. So I think what LeBron does, because we ask LeBron this all the time, like, give us a state of the Cavs after every single game, and they've gone through this streak where they've not been very impressive, and he's starting to hit on some of the things that are obvious. That there hasn't been a lot of depth at that playmaker position because they don't re-sign Dellavedova. Mo Williams ends up bouncing. J.R. Smith ends up getting hurt. But you know, this is a team that everybody loved when they traded their draft picks, when they added Shumpert, when they added J.R. Smith, when they added Mozgov. Everybody loved the Korver deal. Everybody's loved all these little deals and adding all of this money to the highest payroll in the NBA. So now they don't have a lot of options. And the backup point guard names out there aren't going to get you really excited. Rondo, Darren Williams, Jameer Nelson, Ricky Rubio's likely available and all this stuff. But I think it's just him after a bad loss, a loss that didn't make any sense, going, yeah, this would be nicer. And I also don't want to have to play this many minutes because, let's face it, that doesn't make any sense for him to be over 40 minutes the rest of the season. So I think it's a little frustration by him addressing the obvious. When
you broadcast that, though, doesn't that make David Griffin's job a little bit tougher if he's trying to swing a deal for a point guard? And here your superstar is proclaiming, listen, we need help, and we need it badly.
Well, it really does. It puts a lot of pressure on David Griffin, because I'm hearing this morning someone asked me, well, why don't they just get Carmelo Anthony and, you know, things would be great. Well, they can't without dismantling this basketball team, just like Ryan was talking about. They've got so much invested in this basketball core when you talk about Kevin Love, Kyrie, and LeBron. In order to facilitate Carmelo Anthony, one of those guys or both of those guys may have to go, so you're starting over again. But I do think it's a lot of emotion, a lot of frustration. I think that it'll calm down. They'll play a little bit better basketball once Coach Lou gets them to settle in and play a little bit better defense. But there's a couple of holes there, and the biggest one is J.R. Smith.
All right, but can I just jump in, though, on how it makes Griff's job more difficult? What's the market for Jameer Nelson? Like, let's say hypothetically, like, so he gets on the phone with them, and they go, well, we saw LeBron go off the other night. We need 2 second-rounders. Like, I hear this stuff, and I think we all repeat it. I don't think it really makes his job of acquiring. I don't think it now raises the prices up because other teams see David Griffin dealing with malcontent superstar. Like, I think we're making a little bit too much of that, especially when we're talking about the possibilities of who could be acquired.
And the only thing for Griffin just becomes more noise in his ear.
True.
He has to answer to that, and that becomes a little bit. But he's in a tough spot. He's used to doing that anyway.
Okay, you threw some names out there that I thought sounded like pretty good backup point guards, Rondo and Rubio.
Well, Rubio's a really complicated
one. What about Dragic? I mean, you could pick up Dragic and Rondo.
Well, that money-wise, Dragic makes so much money, like, you'd have to get really creative.
Okay, so which guy would make the most sense? You said Jameer Nelson as well. You need a guy to give you 8-10 good minutes when LeBron's off the floor and when Kyrie's off the floor.
What about Raymond Felton would be
the Clippers need him.
Yeah.
Look, I think the biggest thing you'd want to do here is maybe even go with somebody like Rondo because he's free. Like,
do you take that chance?
Actually, I think LeBron loves Rondo, okay? And I think Rondo in this situation would go, well, what am I going to be, a jerk to these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make a ton of sense. So I don't know that it would happen. It was funny reading some of the Chicago stuff where it's like, surprisingly, the market for Rondo is not strong. You're like, well, don't you figure that out in free agency when you get a one-year deal? Look, I don't know, but the Melo thing makes no sense too, because like you have to move.
I wasn't even going to ask you about Melo. I know you're.
Well, the salaries. We get to a point where it comes salary-wise, even if you wanted somebody.
But he's not a playmaker anyway. I mean, if you need a playmaker,
I don't even think they want to do that, man.
No. They need a ball handler. They need a facilitator. They just need someone to give the guys a break, particularly LeBron and Kyrie, from handling the basketball all the time, and when they come off the floor, it doesn't stagnate. But it's not going to change everything for this basketball team, even if they do go out and get this backup point guard. They do need it, but it's not going to change the course. They need J.R. Smith back in the picture to have success.
He's got the thumb injury. Expect maybe another 6-8 weeks that he'll be out. Trade deadline February 23rd. They've lost 5 of 7. They're still in first in the East. They still are in pretty good shape. Where's the panic meter with this team, Ryan?
I said earlier, if LeBron retires, then you guys can have me on all week, and I'll tell you how concerned I am. I'm just not concerned. I'm not concerned. One GM I remember years ago told me about teams that win a title. The biggest thing you need to do is you need to come back better, and you have to be a little different. So Golden State, despite having what we thought was a disadvantage at the beginning of the year, adding a new piece in Durant and then having to blow up their entire center rotation with 2 players, that actually is a to-do list. That is something tangible you can say to your team, we need to work on this and incorporating these new pieces. Cleveland didn't have to really do any of that stuff, so it can get boring. I know people don't want to hear that. Yeah. I know in theory we're out there 82 games a season, giving it your all. That's just not the way the league works. They're the same team. They're not very different. He says they're not better. I'm not so worried about that. I still don't see any scenario where they don't come out of the East.
Yeah, the pieces around a good basketball team have to fit like a puzzle, like I said before. And I'll tell you this, and I'm going to say it for the 3rd time. Without J.R. Smith, this just does not work as well. Yeah, they're the best team in the East. They come out of the East, but they cannot beat Golden State or San Antonio with his current model. They have to have a healthy J.R. Smith. He is so difficult to game plan for, David. He's so unpredictable. He becomes unconscious sometimes shooting the basketball, and he's unconscionable sometimes shooting the basketball, and he's so difficult, and he's a good ball handler. He's an excellent defender. That piece of the puzzle is key for the Cavs. I'm telling you, they got to have him back.
Okay. He's coming back, so you think they're okay?
I think they're okay.
Without making a move, you think they're okay?
I think they're okay.
All right, so not a lot of panic out of the panel today.
Sorry.
It's a no panic panel.